Get some help, Dontel Mays. You're working with Jon Jones and you go in there and put up that type of performance? Get some help. 30-27 against Augusto Sakai, 0-4 in his last 4 fights, all by KO. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC 285. We have an absolute banger of a card, 14 fights to break down. Cannot wait for this one. Finally, a really good card. Last night we had the main event canceled during the card, which sucked. The week before that, we had Jordan Wright, Zach Pauga co-main. We had William Knight go out there and do nothing. This is a card where there's not one bad fight. All 14 of these fights are going to be super fun. Really looking forward to it. I'm here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to UFC 285?
Definitely, man. We've been wading through some shit lately, dude. It's been rough. These cards have been rough. A lot of debuting fighters, a lot of low-level fights, and now here we are, UFC 285. We got the return of Johnny Bones Jones. We haven't even seen Ciryl Gane in a minute. We got Valentina Shevchenko on this card. We've got Jalin Turner versus Mateusz Gamrot. We got Ribas versus Araujo. Du Plessis versus Brunson. There's a lot of great fights on this card. 2 championship fights. Can't wait to break it down with you in the chat. 14 fights to break down, and there's really not any bad ones here, so I am really looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Before we get started, guys, I am going to shout out the chat. If you guys can, please leave a like on the video. It does mean a lot here at Pub Sports Radio. Also, subscribe here at Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy do go live every week, every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's shout out this chat. We got Gogo Flamingo, first one in the building. We got UFC Shell. We got Grateful Dude. We got Brandon Babcock. We got Propaholic, Addicted to Combat. Buffalo on the beat. We got Tim. We got Victor. We got Jared in the chat as well. We got Sean. We got Bob. Phillip. What is up, everybody? We got J Bone in the chat. We got Bucky's MMA picks. J Row from. We got Tony. We got Sparring with Radley. Luke, what is up, everybody? Please smash the like button. Weezy, do you want to do a quick recap of last night? Real quick one, that we can get into this card.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had barely any bets. I wound up a little bit over 4 units. I had a max bet on the Mallet Leoness fight doesn't go to decision, and I had an additional 1 unit on the under 1.5. So it was a total of 6 units in bets there that cashed because Mallet got that arm triangle choke. I also had 1 unit on the Jordan Levitt money line. I did not predict a knockout there, though, my friend. I didn't see that one coming. I'm really glad that I stayed away from certain fights. I was able to stay away from that Mays-Sakai fight, didn't touch it, and Mays looked terrible. And then if I had bet on Andre Muniz, I would have been throwing my remote through the television. What the hell was he doing? Is he a boxer now?
Yes.
Is that what? Okay, all right, fair enough. Well, I'm sure the fact that he was a boxer now really made the Muniz bettors happy. Totally trashed my cash lineup in DraftKings, man. So thanks, Andre Muniz. But great week for me. Up 4.28 units. I smashed the spots that made sense. Stayed away from pretty much everything else. The only losing bet was a quarter unit on Gabriela Fernandez by KO at plus 700. So on to the next. We don't even get time to enjoy our wins anymore, Brady. It's right back to work the very next night for Stat Diggers. Here we are, ready to break down UFC 285.
Yeah, I know. I was up late last night trying to get through a lot of these fights. I did not stay away from the Sakai Mace fight, Weezy. I had Sakai in 3 out of 4 parlays. What's wrong with me?
Sakai? You were parlaying Sakai?
Yes.
I didn't know you were on him that heavily. I picked Sakai to win, but with no confidence at all because I lacked confidence in both fighters. So that was pretty wild, but congratulations on parlaying that dude. He made it look easy. He looked great.
Yeah, I had a 9-legger that hit, and one of the legs was Sakai. Had a 6-legger, and then I had a 2-legger, all involved Sakai. So that was interesting. But the track bets went 7-1. Was just really high on the peak violence. I had the under 1.5 and the fight doesn't go. I was very high on the Malott violence, as were you. The under 1.5 and the fight doesn't go. and a couple more bets, but almost got the sweep. The only bet I lost was the under 2.5 in the Sakai Mace fight. So up over 10 units, 5 of which were tracked, 5 of which were untracked. But I think it was like my second best night ever from a betting perspective. So really good night. The reads were there, the bets were there, and hoping to carry it over to 285 here. But just going through this card, kind of struggling early on, just because there's a lot of really chalky lines here, Weezy. We have not seen a card this chalky in a while, like multiple favorites, like minus 200, minus 250 and greater. So we'll see if we can find some spots. But yeah, I say we get into it, Weezy, and I'm going to zoom this out so everybody can see it to 90%. All right. So we're going to start with the first fight on the card. We have Esteban Ribovics. Is that how you pronounce it? Ribovics?
I think so. I'm really not sure. It's a weird name, but Ribovics. We'll just call him El Gringo, which is a great nickname.
Okay, El Gringo going against, how the heck do you,
Loic Radzhabov.
I'm about to pull up some Google Translate here to fix these up. But yep, Weezy, we have Ribovics, 26 years old, 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. Radzhabov, he is 31 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. We have Ribovics is 5 years younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Ribovics is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, all 5 of those coming by knockout. Got a knockout win in the first round on the Contender Series. And then Radzhabov is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, making his debut here on short notice. It was supposed to be Ribovics taking on someone else. Kamela Kirk, I think it was. Kirk had to pull out in steps Radzhabov. So, Weezy, I did not tape this fight yet. This is I've taped every fight, but I think 2 fights. This is one I did not tape. Somebody in the comments got really mad at me last week for not being able to tape all 14 fights before fight time. So this was the one fight I was not able to get to, but luckily, Weezy, you're able to tape this fight.
Yeah, man, I did. Interesting thing here about both of these guys is that Loic Radzhabov trains at Kill Cliff FC, but I believe that during Ribovics' Dana White Contender Series fight on the walkout, they were talking about how he had been also training at Kill Cliff, even though his home team is in Argentina and it's the Alpha team. But yeah, I mean, El Gringo's undefeated, 11-0 record, 100% finish rate, 6 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's going to be the younger guy by 5 years here, and he's taller and longer than Loic Radzhabov. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, he's got a nice little combination of power and volume on the feet. In the Zaruz fight, I saw him get taken down a number of times by his opponent, Jose Zaruz, but what he was doing was using the Kimura trap to either sweep Zaruz, threaten with the submission, or just stand right up. But he was getting taken down and then just using that Kimura as his defensive option to try to get back up or to try to create some offense of his own. But yeah, he did a great job in that fight, wound up winning the striking exchanges and then getting to his back late. He actually finished him with a knockout late. This guy Ribovics is definitely knocking out a lot of dudes. He's long. He tries to keep people on the end of his punches, but mostly up to this point, we've kind of seen him fight in small cages, like really small cages, like Samurai Fight House type things. And when he's that close to his opponents, he's kind of just wrecking them. He's come out in his last couple of fights before the Dana White Contender Series, just throwing bombs, willing to be in that pocket, trusting his chin, and just throwing with a ton of power. And then with Radzhabov, you got a guy who's 16-4-1 out of Tajikistan. He's been a pro for over 10 years. And then you see that this guy's been in the PFL finals in both 2019 and 2021, fighting against Natan Schulte and fighting against Hausch Manfio. He lost both of those fights. He's never been finished in his career, and he's got a 75% finish rate of his own in the fights that he is winning. So more knockouts than submissions. I've seen Radzhabov be controlled on the ground, but I've also seen him go to that wrestling early in fights when he feels like he's the better wrestler. You can see some examples of that, in particular in the Zach Zane fight, where Zane was kind of looked like he was comfortable on his feet. He was a Hawaiian dude with some power, and Radzhabov was like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna clinch up with this dude," and then he wound up taking him down and subbing him. But he's got some power early in fights. We saw him knock out Akhmed Aliyev early in that fight by throwing bombs. But yeah, he's scrappy. He gets back up when he's taken down. He has the ability to use wrestling of his own and win minutes on the ground with his wrestling and grappling. And he's got some power on the feet. He looks like a good-sized lightweight for sure. The last fight for him, though, prior to being here, was at Eagle FC against Zach Zane, and that fight took place at 165 pounds. And let's keep in mind, Brady, that he just took this fight, did Rajabov yesterday, I believe, or maybe it was just announced today, but that gives him about 6 days to weigh in. And his last fight took place 10 pounds heavier than this one. So we got to worry about the short notice for Rajabov, and we've got to worry about the weight cut for Rajabov coming in a short period of time here. But Ribas was already training for a grappler, and I think while he's on the feet, he should be okay with Rajabov. They both got power for sure. And like we said, Ribas has got a 100% finish rate. Rajabov, 75% finish rate. But we want to be careful about going ham on the fight doesn't go to decision here, because even though we've got a short notice opponent who's making his UFC debut, two guys making their UFC debut, and with with Rajabov, it's a short notice weight cut. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished in their career, and that's a total of 32 professional fights. So that's gonna be the roadblock that probably keeps me from betting on violence here. But this guy Rajabov has just fought and beaten the much, much, much better brand of competition up until this point in his career. And I think that Rajabov definitely has some wrestling upside here. If he doesn't like what Ribas is offering on the feet, I think Loic has what it takes in order to get some takedowns, stay safe on the ground, and win some minutes that way.
Sounds good. We have Rajabov is the favorite. He opened up as a -250 favorite, currently -240. Ribas opened up as a +210 dog, currently +205. You mentioned the fight doesn't go. It's sitting at -165, which is something I'll probably stay away from since neither guy's been finished in such a fight sample. So any thoughts on that line? Any thoughts on any props, Weezy?
That's not terrible, because you've got guys here now in 27 combined wins. 23 of them are inside the distance. So these guys have got a combined 85% finish rate. But the problem is that when you look at Loic Rajabov fighting high-level competition in PFL, these fights are all going to decision with the exception of the Ahmed Aliyev fight. But you look at that stretch over there at PFL, a lot of his fights are going to decision because A, he's durable, and B, because he's got the ability to win minutes on the ground with his own wrestling attack.
Yeah, violence in the Kirk. If it was Kirk versus Ribas, I would have really liked the violence because all but one of their wins have come inside the distance. But I'll have to look into some Rajabov, but I don't know if I'll be touching this fight. So we'll move on to the next fight. We have Damon Blackshear going against Farid Basharat. We got Blackshear, 28 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Basharat, 25 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Basharat, 3 years younger. It's going to be Blackshear with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Blackshear is 4-0-1 draw in his last 5 fights. Made his debut on short notice against Yusuf Zalal. Had a draw there. As far as Basharat goes, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, the line is really wide, but there's a reason for that, and that's because Farid Basharat does really look to be a very special prospect, and he's very young, still only 25 and a half years old. Blackshear is 28 and a half, though, and let's talk about him first. I mean, he's a big, experienced, well-rounded fighter with a functional MMA game. He switches stances on the feet. He's got a variety of offensive weapons, but he really does his best work in the grappling exchanges, as he's got good wrestling. He's got efficient back takes and a solid submission game. 8 of his 12 pro wins are by submission. He's got a 12-4-1 pro record, over 220 minutes in the pro cage in a 7-year amateur or in a 7-year pro MMA career. And he's also got a 7-1 amateur career where he fought Tony Gravely twice. So this guy's been in the game for a long time. He's been around almost 7 years as a pro, but then a couple of years as an amateur as well, which means that he's been fighting since he was in his teens. Damon has fought in reputable regional scene organizations like Bellator, CES, CFFC. He just won the Bantamweight championship in CFFC against DeAndre Anderson, and then he defended it against Josh Smith before he made his UFC debut on short notice against Yusuf Zalal, earning a draw in that fight. So Blackshear's a solid fighter. I mean, he's been around, he's fought good names, and he's won some, he's lost some, but he's never been finished. And he's got, a 2/3 finish rate by submission in his career, and he even does have a knockout on his record as well. Now, Basharat is a very good young prospect. His brother, he's the brother of Javid Basharat, originally from Afghanistan, and then he lived in the UK. Fareed's only 25. He's undefeated, and 6 wins of those 9 are coming inside the distance, 5 submissions and 1 knockout. In the Kulkala fight, Fareed had excellent showing there. He got takedown. Fareed got his takedowns when he wanted them, and he wound up on top every single time that Jan went for a takedown in that fight. He pretty much dominated every minute of that fight that I saw. He's stopping his opponent's takedowns. When he gets takedowns, when Fareed goes for takedowns, he's getting them. When his opponents are going for takedowns, he almost always stops them and reverses them, and then he gets on top of himself. On the feet, he's switching stances constantly. He's very technical. He's very hard to find, and he's got a nice variety of offensive weapons. So the kid is a very, very, very good prospect. But, Blackshear's a little bit taller. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He switches stances. He's 3 years older than Fareed, but he's still, a year and a half shy of being 30. He's just a lot more experienced than Fareed. And frankly, even though Fareed Basharat has shown a very, very well-rounded MMA game thus far, it looks like Damon Blackshear might be the better grappler here. So I think you just got to be careful with Basharat. Yes, he's a great prospect, but he's the less experienced fighter. He's shorter. He's got less length. He's orthodox against the switch stance guy here, and he's fought not nearly as good a competition as Damon Blackshear has. Blackshear's even been scheduled for 4 rounds 2 times in CFFC and title fights there. So, Blackshear's conditioning has looked very good, as has Fareed's. Fareed has no holes in his game that I can find yet. We might find some as he fights better and better opponents now that he's at the UFC level here, but everything that Fareed does on tape is so clean, so technical, and you don't really find any instances of this guy even losing short stretches of fights in any of the tape that I've seen on him. So I get why Fareed is the favorite here. He absolutely should be the favorite. He's a lot more hyped, and his tape just looks clean in terms of he never loses minutes to anybody. But this guy, Damon Blackshear, is no joke. He's well-rounded. He's more experienced. He's taller. He's longer. He's got a very good submission grappling game. And if he gets to Fareed's back, he could really cause some problems here and make this a lot closer than what the books are telling us it's going to be. So it's going to be very interesting to see Fareed make his debut here on a big card, UFC 285. But I know that the brass, the fans, they're expecting big things out of this kid. And they're trying to give him a guy in Blackshear that is not fantastic anywhere, but well-rounded, a veteran, and it will be a good first step for Fareed to get this win here. I'm not going to be laying -500 on this kid, though.
Yeah, and Luke kind of agrees with you saying -500 is kind of weird. Blackshear isn't a bum.
Yeah.
And
he's not. Dude, is Damon Blackshear a bum because he lost or because he had a draw on short notice, against Yusuf Zalal, a guy who had already had 6 UFC fights? Does that make him a bum?
No.
No, right? I mean, come on. So this line is wide, but like I said, man, you can't really go into Basharat's film and be like, oh, I see tons of holes here. No, the guy's very good.
Yeah, that's the problem with this card, though. We have a lot of wide lines. We have a -500 favorite, a -275, -650, -285. We have a -240, a -205, -625, a -1800, a -500, a -220. So just a lot of really big favorites on this card. Probably going to be a lot of parlays this week. So Basharat, probably somebody I'll be leaving out of the parlays for sure. But yeah, the fight goes -135. Fight doesn't go -105. I'd probably lean that fight goes. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Basharat, he's finished 6 of his 9 wins, but the dude is very patient, He's not in a hurry. He's won 3 decisions thus far, and Blackshear has been a decision 8 times in his career. Of his 17 fights, he's got an overall 3-4-1 record in decisions.
And then somebody in the chat was asking about Boshrap by decision. It's plus 110 right now on 5 dimes, which I think is much better than the minus 500.
Yeah, and Blackshear has never been finished in 17 professional fights.
Yeah, he's tough. He's definitely tough. But yep, we will move on to the next fight. We got another big favorite here. We have Tabitha Ricci, the baby shark, going against Jessica Penne. We got Tabitha Ricci, 28 years old, 5'1" with a 61-inch reach. Jessica Penne, 40 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. It's going to be Penne, who's 12 years older, but she's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage as well. Jessica Penne, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights, had a knockout loss to the very handsome Jessica Andrade, a decision loss to Danielle Taylor, a decision win against Lupita Godinez, a submission win against Karolina Kovalkiewicz, and then a decision loss to Emily Ducote. As far as Tabitha Ricci, she made her debut up a weight class against Manon Fiora, lost that fight by knockout, but she bounces back with 2 wins in a row against Maria Oliveira and then Poliana Viana, both of those coming by decision. So yeah, another really big favorite here in Tabitha Ricci. She's approaching minus 300 pretty fast. I think she's like minus 275, minus 280 right now. So money's pouring in on her. And yeah, I think she wins this fight, but like laying minus 300 on Tabitha Ricci, I'm not so sure about that. But Penne is 40 years old. She's getting up there. I think the striking is probably going to be competitive. Like neither fighter has good striking. Both of these fighters are primarily grapplers. Both of these fighters are black belts. I just feel like Tabitha Ricci is going to be able to be the one to get on top. Really like Ricci's wrestling, but Jessica Penne's very comfortable on the mat off her back. It's Tabitha Ricci here for me for sure, but minus 300, I'm not so sure about that. Probably a fight I'll be staying away from. Weezy, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a grappler versus grappler matchup. So both fighters are going to get the fight that they want. But while Jessica Penne is 12 years older than Tabitha Ricci, and Jessica's 40, and Tabitha's just 28. So obviously that's not good, but if you're on the Penne side. But Penne's 4 inches taller. She's got a 6-inch reach advantage. She's been a pro for 7 more years in comparison to Tabitha Ricci. She's got 12 more fights. She's been in the UFC 4 more fights than Tabitha, and has got about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage in comparison to Tabitha. And both fighters are going to get the fight that they want here. Tabitha Ricci's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, if I'm not mistaken. And on the other side, in Penne, you've got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who uses that unusually long frame for the division to try to get to her opponent's back, wrap her opponents up like a spider. She's looking for flying triangles, flying arm bars. She's constantly trying to get to your back. And I think that that's an interesting wrinkle of this fight, Brady, right? Because Ricci being a black belt in judo is going to be very comfortable in the clinch and very good at being able to get takedowns from the clinch position. But the one fault that judo players have is they love that head and arm throw. It's such a functional throw in judo when your opponent is wearing a gi and you can get behind their head, you can get them down, but you can hold onto the gi to keep them there and to prevent them from getting your back. And also within a judo rule set, you're not on the ground long enough oftentimes for you to pay for getting your back taken when you do choose to get that throw. That's different in MMA. And actually, that's one of the things that Jessica Penne did in the Godinez fight, was Godinez went for a head and arm throw, and Jessica used that opportunity to get to Godinez's back with about 2.5 minutes left in the round. She spent the rest of the round there. So Tabitha's going to have to be very careful when this fight does get into the clinch about how she proceeds from there to try to get throws. She's going to probably try to want to get sweeps, trips, and reaps rather than head and arm throws or whizzer kicks here. And Penne is going to try to get into that clinch. Look at those distance striking numbers, Brady. Neither one of these ladies could hit water if they fell out of a boat. Okay, you got a 28% distance accuracy for Jessica Penne, and it's even worse for Ricci at 27%. And then in addition to that, Penne, 47% distance defense, while it's 62% for Tabitha Ricci. But both of these ladies suck at distance. They're not good strikers. Both of them are going to be more comfortable, when this thing gets into the clinch and when this thing gets on the ground. Tabitha's got the better wrestling. Tabitha's got the better judo. But by taking down Jessica Penne or just getting into the clinch period with Penne, she's going to be giving Jessica Penne, the taller, longer, and more experienced fighter, exactly what she wants, which is to grapple. So I don't understand this line.
Yeah, it was weird. Like these, they were supposed to fight was it like a month and a half, like 2 months ago, and it was. I remember Ricci being like minus 150, like minus 160, something like that, and now all of a sudden they're rebooked, and Ricci's just like massive favorite here. So minus 275 for Tabitha Ricci this time around. Looks like best price out there is like minus 265. So money's continuing to come in on Ricci, and yeah, I gotta pick Ricci, but Penny's like. She's slick on the mat. She's very tricky on the mat as well. So I mean, I just don't see myself laying minus 275. I've actually backed Ricci in her last 2 fights against Viana. I bet her there, and I also bet her as a pretty big favorite against Maria Oliveira. Here, I just don't feel comfortable about it. I know that what's her face, Penny's 40 years old, but I don't know. Just have a bad feeling about this one. So another fight where another really wide line. I mean, sure, if like Ricci was like minus 150, sure, but minus 275, I don't know. I can't get there.
Yeah, I won't be getting to the Ricci side on a money line bet here, but I mean, I do have to pick her. She's 12 years younger. If she wants to wrestle and get takedowns, Jessica's just going to let her. That's where Jessica wants to be anyway. So if this fight winds up looking like the Viana fight, and Viana's another girl who doesn't really mind being on her back because she lets people take her down. She wants to be there because she likes to go for that armbar. Well, Jessica's looking to get on the ground and set up arm bars, triangles, sweeps, anything, and just trying to get to her opponent's back. So, this fight absolutely could look a lot like Ricci versus Viana, where Ricci just racks up a ton of control time and makes it look easy. But if it doesn't look like that, Penny could present more problems on the ground than Viana potentially.
Yeah, and I think I do lean it towards it looking a little bit like that. I don't think Penny's going to fight as much as like an idiot like Viana did, but I still think it could look someone like that.
Agreed.
All right, let us move on to the next fight, Weezy. I think this fight's going to be an absolute banger. We have Cameron Simon going against Mana Martinez. We got Simon, 22 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Mana Martinez, 26 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. It's going to be Simon, 4 years younger. It's going to be Mana Martinez with a 2-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Mana Martinez is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Guido Canetti, won that fight by split decision. He lost to Ronnie Lawrence by decision in a very fun fight, and then he beat Brandon Davis by split decision. As far as Cameron Simon, he went out there on the Contender Series, got a 3rd-round knockout win, and then he also got a 3rd-round knockout win against Steven Kozlow. Man, I don't know what to think about Cameron Simon. I mean, this is a guy, he's only 22 years old. I still think he's very green, but he does do a lot of things I like. What I like about Simon is going to be the volume, brings a ton of volume, and he brings really good cardio as well and solid power. He's not like some murderous power puncher, but he's somebody that really puts it on you as the fight goes on, and he can definitely hurt you. And when he does hurt you, he swarms you, and he lets off with a big combination, kind of like he did in that Kozlow fight. The ref was kind of forced to step in. Mana Martinez, this is a guy I was kind of high on coming into the UFC. You go and watch all his fights outside the UFC, and this guy's like a murderous power puncher, like killing dudes within the first like 60 seconds of fights. This guy has a ton of power, at least has shown a ton of power outside the UFC. Inside the UFC, he's still showing that power. He has like 4 or 5 knockdowns, something like that. He had a couple in the Lawrence fight, had a couple in the Davis fight, but that power isn't translating as much as I'd originally thought. I thought he would go out there and just destroy Guido Canetti. That wasn't the case there. So I don't know. This is a fight where I think it could be very competitive early on. It's just as the fight goes on, Martinez does tend to slow down, whereas Cameron Simon, he can go a full 15 minutes, no problem. That power does carry late. The volume does carry late. And I can't really say the same for Mana Martinez, but again, another really chalky price tag on Simon here, and I'm not completely sold on the guy. I think both guys have crap takedown defense, so I'm curious to see if either guy goes to their offensive wrestling. But what I do think is I think this fight's going to be an absolute banger. I think these guys are going to stand and bang for the most part, and it would not shock me if either guy knocked the other guy out. So this might be a violent spot for me, depending on the line. I could see Mana Martinez landing something big early. And I could see Cameron Simon putting it on him late as well. So maybe a violent spot for me, but another pretty chalky line here on the 22-year-old Cameron Simon. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it could be an interesting violence line because all three of Martinez's fights that have been at the UFC level have went to decision. But prior to that, he had 100% finish rate. So, and he had been finished in one of those losses as well. So definitely a guy that has got a lot of power in Mana Martinez. And then with Simon, you just see, I mean, what I see with Simon is a very poised young prospect. The guy looks to have ice water running through his veins. His conditioning is impeccable. The kid's got a nice chin on him. He was actually in the Billy Oosthuizen fight was eating some big shots on the feet, and he ate them like a flapjack and kept going. So the kid's got conditioning. He's got durability. He pours on volume. You look at the distance numbers there, 16.29 significant strikes attempted per minute at distance there. Well, for Mana, it's 11.14 in a bigger sample size, obviously. Still, Simon throws a lot of volume, and he's got power in his hands, and his conditioning, allows him to be able to push a pace for the entire fight. So when I saw this line, Brady, I was looking at the overall stats here, and I saw, my God, I'm like, wow, Cameron Simon, really? Minus 225, Mana Martinez? Mana Martinez is 2 inches taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's got 6 more professional fights. He's got a 100% finish rate before he got into the UFC. He's fought the better brand of competition, and he's got a ton of power in his hands. And I'm like, plus 200? Hell yeah, I think I'm getting on that. Let me take this. So I take the Cameron Simon side, and I'm like, oh, boy, this kid's good. He's good, right? And then I take the Mana Martinez side, and I'm like, oh, no, he's bad. He's really bad. This is a guy who lands big shots and does nothing else. Dude, he's got 4 knockdowns in the UFC. 2 of them came in one round against Brandon Davis. He lost 4 minutes and 30 seconds of that round and then wound up getting a late knockdown, I think on a spinning back fist. And he got 2 knockdowns against Ronnie Lawrence in that fight. That was over a 1-minute stretch, and he cleanly lost the other 14 minutes of that fight. This guy went hammer and tongs with Guido Canetti, a 43-year-old man, and probably lost that fight. Mana Martinez doesn't do much, man. When he's at range, he's way too patient. He throws naked leg kicks, and he waits to land one big shot. This guy, Simon, is going to put volume on him. He's going to mix in a takedown every once in a while, and he's going to put a pace on Mana Martinez that I don't think Mana Martinez is going to be able to handle. I think Mana absolutely has a chance to land a big shot here, but the tape study on Mana Martinez made me realize that sometimes these stats can be a little bit misleading, and in this case, you see him landing more significant strikes at distance than he's absorbing. You see the good power numbers, at 2.15%. But then when you watch the tape, you're like, shit, man, this guy doesn't do anything. He's waiting for something. Now, he can still be getting better. He's still only 26 years old. His head coach died right before his UFC debut. And now, he's having to, him and Adrian Yannis were both being coached by Sean Solis, who passed away. And so they've been kind of bouncing around, figuring out where it is that they want to train now. Mana Martinez, after Solis died, went to Glory. Now he's got to go train someplace else. I think this kid's still finding himself. And I think he's entirely too patient. I think he's entirely too low volume. He waits to land that big shot. And if that big shot doesn't come, unless he's facing somebody like Brandon Davis or Guido Canetti, who's not really that good to begin with, and doesn't really put on a pace or do much, he's going to have problems with guys like Simon, who are going to pressure, who are going to throw in combination and volume, who are going to mix in takedowns, who are going to test your conditioning, and who are going to actually do something. So as much as I thought I was going to get on the Mana Martinez side here, I think Cameron Simon is going to clean this kid up.
Yeah. I'm definitely not touching the money line for Simon. I mean, he opened up minus 180, but he's now minus 285, and I see like minus 300 on some books.
Yeah.
Mono Martinez now plus 245, so definitely a chalky price tag. But what I'm kind of looking at is maybe like the fight doesn't go right now. They have it at minus 145. Like both guys are super dangerous. Mono Martinez has power early on, especially, but we actually have seen that power carry kind of late as well. And then Simon, like you said, he can put it on you. And if he does hurt Mono Martinez, he's going to swarm you and he's going to finish the fight. We saw Ronnie Lawrence, who's a guy that he's a decisionator, went out there and knocked down Mono Martinez 3 times. It just a terrible look there. So I kind of lean with you at the Simon side. I lean a mid to late finish, but my favorite spot here is probably the fight is a good decision at minus 145. I don't think that's a crazy price tag there.
Yeah, I mean, you go and you watch that Lawrence fight, and like after the first round, you see Manny Martinez walking back to his corner, and he's just shaking his head, and his face is full of blood. Well, guess what he did walking back to his corner after the second round? He's shaking his head, and there was even more blood. And he even had 2 knockdowns, but he's just losing. He's got to do more. He's got to be more active. And I promise that, when it comes to the activity and the conditioning in this fight, it's going to be all Simon. So Manny Martinez is going to absolutely have to land a big shot to have any chance of winning this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Mana looked really off in his debut against Guido, and we can give him some slack because his coach died like the week of.
Yeah.
But he's looked off in every other fight as well. He looked off against Ronnie Lawrence. He looked off against Brandon Davis. So maybe he's just not as great as I thought he would be. Because before the UFC, this guy was going out there and knocking out guys and knocking out some solid. Like he has a knockout win against Jose Johnson, I think. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Tercios too. He flattened Tercios in the first round.
He did. He's knocked out some solid guys, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, this should be a banger, Weezy.
It's going to be such a fun fight. I am so impressed by Simon. I mean, like I said, he's poised. He's got great conditioning. He gets taken down, but then he threatens with submission, sweeps, or gets back up. He really looks like he's the complete package. Training with Dricus du Plessis, who we're going to talk about later on in this card from Team CIT, South Africa, stand up. They're really representing that regional mixed martial arts scene down there very well up here in the UFC. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a great fight.
Yes, sir. And just like Mono Martinez needs some more activity, I agree with Buffalo. We need some more activity in that like button. Smash that like button. Let's try to get those likes up and maybe get 100 by the time we get out of here. We have not hit that 100 mark in a while. With football season and all that, maybe we can hit 100 likes by the time we get out of here. We got we got Mo caught saying when Andre Beniz from Brazil, who can't speak English, walks in with Eminem's song, I knew something was wrong. Bad decision, as you guys have said before. I didn't even hear the walkout. Did you hear the walkout on that one?
I don't think I did, actually, because I remember we were listening to some music. My friend came over, and we were listening to some music, and I had the fights on mute, which I think is the best way to watch it a lot of the times anyway, but I didn't hear Eminem, and I'm glad I didn't.
Jordan Levitt walked out to what song did he walk out to? It was by Pretty Ricky. What was it?
It wasn't Barbie Girl, was it? I thought somebody said that he had walked out to Barbie Girl.
No, what was it called? I can't even look it up because my Wi-Fi is not working. It's whatever. But yeah, I was kind of worried about my Jordan Levitt bet once he was walking out to that. But he went out there and knocked the dude out with the knee, so that was cool.
Dude, his haircut. I didn't like the haircut either. I'm like, what is going on with that flat top? But my God, Jordan Levitt knockout. I was laughing so hard when that happened. You could have given me a million tries. I would have never guessed Jordan Levitt by first round knockout. So it's the second time he's done it. He's got one over Wyman, and now he's got one over Martinez.
First of all, I didn't mind the haircut. I think it fits him. So, but maybe just a hot take. Second of all, he walked out to Grind on Me.
By who?
By Pretty Ricky, and he was like dancing to it, and his like team was dancing to it, and I don't know. I didn't think my bet was going to cash on him, but it did, and he looked better than ever. Like Jordan Levitt went out there and knocked somebody out, and you love to see it.
Yeah, and Victor Martinez's buddies have got to be busting his balls right now, man.
I busted his balls a little bit. I was like, fighter removed, Victor Martinez. Nobody should be getting knocked out by Jordan Levitt ever. So
that was shocking, man. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, absolutely. But let us move on, Weezy, to the next fight. We have Song Kanan going against Ian Gary. We got Gary, 25 years old, 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. Song, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 71-inch reach. We have Gary 7 years younger, 3-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. Gary is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Jordan Williams, won that fight by late first-round knockout, won a decision win against Darian Weeks, and then a decision win against Gabriel Green. As far as Song, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, had a knockout win against Hector Aldana, a decision loss to Alex Morono, a decision win against Derek Krantz, a knockout win against Colin Potter, and then a knockout loss against Max Griffin. It's been a while since we've seen Song. I mean, the last time we saw Song fight was that Max Griffin fight. It was back, I think, early 2021. So Song's taken a little bit of a layoff here, coming back against Ian Gary. Ian Gary, actually one of the biggest favorites on the card here. And at first, I was like, who the heck is laying minus 500, minus 600 on Ian Gary? But I really do like him to win this fight. You know, I remember watching Ian Gary before his debut. I was super high on the guy. I like the striking. I like that he's big for the division. I like the footwork, the speed. I like the grappling as well. I think he's super well-rounded. The one knock on Gary coming into his debut against Jordan Williams for me was the striking defense can be kind of questionable at times. He kind of leans with his head back, chin up in the air, hands down, can be hit. And that did show itself in the Jordan Williams fight. He was getting cracked a little bit by Jordan Williams. Ultimately was able to find that knockout win. And I think he's going to be improving. He's training at Killcliff FC. So we're going to see massive improvements each time we see him in the cage. And he's only 25 years old. So I'm hoping he kind of shores up that strike and defense because I think he has a solid future here. Song Kenan, I don't think he poses much problems outside of maybe landing one big shot. I think Song Kenan's kind of knockout or bust here. I think Gary's much better on the feet, you know, with the volume, with the movement. And then if Gary wants to, we haven't seen it a ton thus far in the UFC, but if Gary wants to, he can take this guy down. I don't think Song Kenan has nothing off his back. So, yeah, I like Gary here. We'll talk about the line in a little bit. Not much you can do with it, but I think Gary wins this one pretty handily. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Gary's 25 years old, undefeated, you know, a good-looking kid, great prospect. Everything that you see on tape, like, looks smooth, whether it's the grappling, whether it's the takedown defense, the striking on the feet. He looks like a gazelle out there, you know. He looks like smooth, long, effortless, and the power, you know, when he hits you just right, you know, obviously he's cleaning dudes' clocks, finishing 5 wins by knockout. 10% by submission, and he's 4-0 in decisions. So a lot to like there. And we haven't seen Song Kenan in 2 years at this point. Coming off a knockout loss to Max Griffin here. When we look at the distance striking numbers, clearly Song Kenan prefers to be striking. He's attempted 0 takedowns in 6 fights. That's a dead giveaway that dude wants to be on the feet. And he's only got 50% takedown defense. Song's been taken down 2.0 times per 15 minutes, 6 times in 12 attempts in 6 fights. He's getting 2% control time in Song Kenan, and he's giving up about 16%. So he's only winning about 11% of the control time positions that he's in. So it's good to know for Gary that option might be there for him. If he ever doesn't like how it's going on the feet, Song Kenan has shown pretty shitty takedown defense, right? And Ian might want to do that because the one thing that Song does have is power. He's landed 3 knockdowns in 6 fights. He has 3 wins out of his 4 UFC wins by knockout. And all of those knockdowns, I think, are coming one at a time. So when he knocks you down, he knocks you out. Dude's got 1-punch knockout power. But who's it against, though, right? It's against Callan Potter. It's against Hector Aldana, and it's against Bobby Nash back in 2017. So, but he got a knockdown against Nash, got a knockdown against Aldana, and he got a knockdown against Potter. First round knockout, second round knockout, first round knockout. So, you know, the guy's got power. Ian Gary is doing a little bit better on the feet in terms of his distance striking numbers as he's landing 7.18, but only absorbing 5.3. 56% distance accuracy is excellent. 53.5% distance striking defense, not great. That could get better, but he's spending most of his time up there at distance, 77%. So, yeah, look, Song Kenan probably has a puncher's chance here, but you got to believe that Gary can mix in the wrestling if he feels like it to be able to win minutes. And if he doesn't want to do that and he just wants to use that 3-inch reach advantage, that 3-inch height advantage to pick him apart from range, I think that's an option as well. Really hard to find reasons to pick a Song Kenan off a 2-year layoff at the age of almost 33 at this point against an up-and-coming prospect like Gary. But if you're feeling a little risky, take Song Kenan by knockout. That's the way to play him, because that's what he needs to do in order to win this fight. He's not going to win minutes at range. He's not going to all of a sudden become a wrestler after 2 years off and attempting 0 takedowns in 6 UFC fights. So, Song Kenan's got that puncher's chance. He's got that power. Maybe Song Kenan by knockout could be better than plus 500. It might be worth a small little sprinkle. But other than that, I don't see a way that you can really play this fight.
Yep. Song Kenan inside the distance right now is plus 710. So the knockout's probably a little bit better than that. But yep, Gary opened up as a minus 375 favorite, currently minus 650. Song Kenan opened up plus 310, currently plus 475. I think Gary's going to be in a lot of parlays this week. I think that line probably even gets wider due to him getting thrown into all these parlays. If I can get him at like minus 500, minus 550, I don't hate him as a parlay piece, but I'm not sure if I'll be doing a parlay this week. And to be honest, you kind of got to, because there's so many chalky lines here. I guess Gary would be the one thus far that we've talked about that I don't hate as a parlay piece. I just think Song really has nothing for him outside of that puncher's chance.
Yep, and I agree with you there too, man. I kind of feel that way about Mana Martinez against Cameron Simon as well. I see these fights being a similar situation to each other.
Yep, absolutely. All right. We don't have any lines out for the fight goes or fight doesn't go. Besides Caesars, which Caesars have been on crack lately or something, because they have the fight goes to decision minus like 500,000, and then the fight doesn't go to decision minus 100,000. Any thoughts on that, Weezy?
They seem overpriced. I mean, I don't have my prop template in front of me, Brady, but I don't like paying 99.95% implied probabilities. It leaves very little room for error.
I'm going to lay 100,000 units to win one.
On which one, though?
On the fight doesn't go.
I like it because I think it cashes. And don't think about what you're going to lose. Only think about what you could possibly win.
100,000 units to win one. Anyway, get it together, Caesars. Come on. It's been like that for a couple weeks now. But next, we have a very fun fight here. We have Julian Marquez going against Marc-André Barriault. We had got Marquez, 32 years old, 6'2" with a 72-inch reach. Marc-André Barriault, 33 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. We have Marquez 1 year younger, and then it's going to be Marc-André Barriault with a 2-inch reach advantage, but a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Marquez, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Sub win over Darren Stewart. Decision loss against Alessio Di Chirico, submission win against Maki Bitolo and Sam Alvey, and then a knockout loss his last time out against Gregory Rodriguez. As far as Marc-André Barriault, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights as well. A knockout win against Abu Azaitar, a decision win against Dolce Langambula, a knockout loss to Chidi Njokwani, a submission win against Jordan Wright, and then a submission loss against Anthony Hernandez. This is one of the closer lined fights on the card, so one of the more bettable fights on the card, I'd say. I like the volume of Marc-André Barriault, but it's going to be Julian Marquez who's going to be the more dangerous in this matchup. Julian Marquez, multiple submissions on his record, lots of power as well. But I feel like Marc-André Barriault is going to be the minute winner in this matchup. He's going to have the better cardio, the more volume across 3 rounds. But Julian Marquez, he's tough. He's dangerous. So I do slightly lean with the volume of Marc-André Barriault, but the line has kind of gotten away from me now. We see money pouring in on Barriault as we speak. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here? Should be a good one.
Yeah, my thoughts were that, I've bet on Marquez a couple of times before. I bet on him I bet on the finish only prop for Marquez against Chidi Njokwani, against Gregory Rodriguez, because Marquez is just so durable, and he wound up getting knocked out in the first round because, the other thing that I didn't forget was the guy's defense on the feet is just god awful. I mean, he's so easy to hit. The guy's such a minute loser. He's getting out wrestled by Maki Bitolo. He's losing striking battles to Alessio Di Chirico. Absolutely just getting styled on by Gregory Rodriguez. You got a guy who in Marquez has got 3 wins at the UFC level. All 3 of them are by submission, but he's got 0 takedowns. So it's like you have to kind of do him a favor, and put him into the place where he needs to be in order for him to even have a chance, because on the feet, he's just a punching bag. And with Barriault, you got a guy that's, he's 4-5 at the UFC level. He's got a couple of finishes. But like when he fights guys like Marquez, I mean, he beats them, like somebody like Abu Azatar, who's got a couple of rounds of cardio, is a good kickboxer. Barriault can just stand in front of dudes like that, absorb their best shots, and just be there for longer, put on more of a pace, break them late in fights. And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do that here against Marquez, because the thing I can't figure out about Marquez is that now there are certain things that I think are really important, right? Durability, heart. Those are things that you can't find on the spreadsheet, right? But they're things that absolutely make a difference, especially in the lower level of mixed martial arts where you're not necessarily facing skilled opponents. Sometimes just being tougher and wanting it more than the other guy is good enough when you got two unskilled fighters in the cage. But where is Marquez skilled is my question. Other than being durable, other than never giving up, what is he showing in the cage where you're like, wow, that's really good?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you because I need help.
I mean, power and the submission game is what I say.
Power and the submission game. Yeah, okay. Because he's landed one knockdown in 5 UFC fights. He's getting outlanded on the feet by one significant strike per minute at distance. He throws less volume, but he's only 34% accurate on the feet, and he's 54% defense. He's actually been knocked down 3 times while only getting 1 knockdown in the UFC. So he's giving up more knockdowns than he gets. So I don't know where he's going to be better. And the thing about Barriault is that he's got great conditioning and he's got great durability. So if Barriault doesn't give up, I just got to believe that Barriault is going to be the more skilled fighter. I think he can get takedowns if he wants them. I think he can win minutes in the clinch against Julian Marquez. And I think he can offer more volume, pressure Marquez on the feet, and win the minutes at distance as well. So I had to bet Julian Marquez here, 1.3 units at -130 to win 1. I don't think Barriault's a world beater by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm really having a hard time figuring out where Marquez wins minutes or moments in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can definitely win moments, but I agree with you in terms of the minutes. It's going to be Marc-André Barriault, and that's why I do lean with him ever so slightly. So Marc-André Barriault opened up as a dog, actually, +128. He's now -157. Julian Marquez opened up -148, currently +137. I think the slight favorite, Marc-André Barriault, makes sense. One thing I'll be looking at is maybe like a decision only for Marc-André Barriault, just because Marquez, he's not a minute winner. He has never won a decision before. So if I can get the decision only for Marc-André Barriault at a playable price, I'll be looking at that. But other than that, it's going to be a pass. 5 Dimes, for some reason, they have the fight doesn't go to decision at -425, and the fight goes to decision at +305. I think that's a fake line, but it makes no sense just because both these guys are just next level tough. Weezy, any thoughts on the money line? You said you already bet him at -130, you said?
Yeah, I bet him at -130, but it's getting a little bit nuts now, at -167 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, right now, if the fight doesn't go to decision, is sitting at -430. That means the fight goes is sitting about +350. That would be about a 22% implied probability. But Barriault's fights have went to decision at the UFC level 5 out of 9 times, so 55%. And for Marquez, it's 1 out of 5 times. So it's 6 out of their 14 fights. So almost 50% of their fights have seen the scorecards. So to get, a 21% implied probability on the fight goes to decision, when we know at this division in particular, the fights are going to decision about 45% of the time, I think it's a really good bet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if that line's legit. But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely play the fight goes at plus 300. I probably played it like plus 200. So,
Yeah.
and I'm a violence guy. I don't bet overs. I bet one this year and it has not worked out. Thank you, Lena Landsberg. But if this is plus 305, I will be betting that goes the distance.
Yeah, that's an interesting line. It's an interesting way to play it. And of course, it'll be a sweat because both of these guys hit hard,
Oh yeah.
But Marquez has got a Homer Simpson chin, and Barriault is very difficult to finish as well. Another finish only prop that I've lost. Two of the finish only props that I've lost: Marquez against Rodriguez, and then Marc-André Barriault against Chidi Njokuani. Made me look like a complete asshole there. He knocked him out in like 12 seconds.
Yeah, I was on the cheaty one. It didn't feel good, but at least it was nice and fast. Just ripped it off like a band-aid. But
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to lose bets. If you're going to have that over, you just want your person getting smoked 10 seconds in and be like, well, bad read.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's move on to this is the closest lined fight on the card. Weezy, curious to your thoughts on this one. We got Viviane Araújo going against Amanda Ribas. We got Araújo, 36 years old, 5'4" with a 68-inch reach. Ribas is 29 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. Ribas is 7 years younger. She's going to be at a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Viviane Araújo is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a decision win against Montana De La Rosa, a decision win against Roxanne Modafferi, a decision loss to Caitlin Chukagian, a decision win against Andrea Lee, and then a decision loss to Alexa Grasso her last time out. As far as Ribas, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a decision win against Randa Marcos, a submission win against Paige Van Zandt, a knockout loss against Marina Rodriguez, a decision win against Verna Jandiroba, and then a decision loss against Caitlin Chukagian. Yeah, very interesting fight here, Weezy. I think it's lying close for a reason. I see this fight going the distance. I see this fight being very competitive. What I like about both fighters have really good takedown defense, especially Viviane Araújo. I think it's like a 90% takedown defense. I like the striking of Viviane Araújo as well. The one knock on her has always been that cardio. She looks really good early, but she tends to slow down as the fight goes on. So I don't like that. And that's why I think this fight's going to play out close. I'm not sure if Ribas is going to be able to get this fight down to the mat, whereas Araújo, I think she might be able to. But as the fight goes on, Araújo does slow down more and more. It's a fight where I'm probably not going to bet. I slightly lean. I don't know. I've been going back and forth. I think I slightly lean Viviane, but I'm probably not going to touch this one. Weezy, any hot takes on this one?
Not really hot takes here. Look, with Ribas, you've got somebody that's got great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and great judo. Her judo is fantastic. So you don't really want to clinch up with Amanda Ribas. That's where she's going to do really good work and potentially, land shots from the clinch and dirty box you, or get you down to the ground, which is where she does really good work on the ground. And Vivi has got great kickboxing. She's got a very busy style, though. You see her early in fights, she's bouncing around, she's moving her head, and she throws with a lot of power too. So that kind of style is not easy to keep up for 15 minutes. And that's why we've seen Vivi kind of fade a little bit late in fights. So she's kind of got to find that happy medium where she can still be elusive and explosive in the striking, but cut down the movement just a little bit so that she can keep that pace up for a little bit longer. But Amanda Ribas definitely has spent most of her career down at strawweight. So now that she's up here at flyweight, she's not cutting as much weight, and she's had really good performances up here. The performance against Chukagian was really good, but and Araújo has been fighting really killers here. Chukagian, Andrea Lee, Alexa Grasso, Montana De La Rosa. She's had some really good fights, and she's 5-3 in the UFC. She's finished 1 of her 5 wins. Ribas has finished 2 of her 5 wins, and Ribas has been finished once at the UFC level, and Vivi's never been finished at the UFC level. When we look at the takedown numbers, both of these ladies are getting takedowns. 2.03 per 15 minutes for Vivi, 2.19 for Ribas. They're both getting their takedowns attempts at just below 50%. They're both out-controlling their opponents. Vivi winning about 80% of her control time positions, and Ribas winning about 79% of them. Both of them are out-controlling their opponents at a very good ratio, and both of them have takedown defense sitting around 90%. But when it comes to the open mat wrestling, I don't think either one of them is going to have much success. When it comes to being in that clinch, I can see Ribas getting takedowns from the clinch because of that judo black belt of hers. But Vivi's going to be bigger. She's going to be longer. And at distance, even though Amanda Ribas's numbers are very good, she's faced some really bad strikers. She's faced Jandiroba and Van Zant and Marcos. And I think that's where she kind of made that up, because Katlyn Chookagian was definitely winning a lot of minutes on the feet against Ribas. And obviously Marina Rodriguez knocked her out. Ribas has got okay functional striking, but I think Vivi's striking is going to be much better. It's just that, I want to know how much of this fight is going to be spent in the clinch, because I think Araujo will be better at distance. I think Ribas will be better in the clinch. And I don't think either one of them is going to have an easy time getting this fight to the ground, as both of these ladies have fantastic takedown defense. Both of these ladies are very good with the grappling efficiency. When we look at the overall strength of schedule, Ribas is a little bit better overall, fighting just as experienced competition, but with a better win-loss ratio. And the wins are just a little bit better for Ribas as well. But remember, those wins are coming at 115, not at 125. Very, very interesting fight. Very close fight. And I have no idea who's going to win, dude.
Yep, and the line indicates exactly that. We have Viviane Araújo opened up -110, currently -115. Amanda Ribas opened up -110, currently -105. The fight goes to decision, juiced to -265. The fight doesn't go +185. Probably one I'll just sit back and watch. Don't really see myself putting money on this one, but I do slightly lean Viviane Araújo to be the better striker, but the cardio is what kind of scares me off of her. So, I mean, it's probably going to be a pass for me, but a fight I am looking forward to watch for sure.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be a great fight. Both of these ladies are top 10, 125 pounders at this point. I don't know if Ribas is ranked yet, but after that performance against Chookagian, I thought she won that fight. So, if she can be that competitive with Katlyn Chookagian, she's obviously a top 10 in this division. So, really looking forward to this fight.
Yep, I thought she beat Chookagian as well. I also thought Araújo beat Chookagian as well. So Chook just has a way with the judges, it seems like. But yeah,
she does.
Oh yeah, it's those noises, it's those tennis sounds. The judges eat them up.
They sure do, man. It's pretty wild. But Katlyn keeps getting those wins.
Oh yeah, tons of wins. Some are questionable, but let's move on to the good stuff, Weezy. We have Dricus du Plessis going against Derek Brunson. Banger fight here. We got Dricus is 29 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Derek Brunson, 39 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Dricus, he's 10 years younger. That's huge. Brunson's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Both are the same height there at 6'1". Brunson is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Got that decision win against Heinisch, a knockout win against Shabazian, a decision win against Holland, a submission win against Till, and then got knocked out by Jared Cannonier. Dricus, he made his debut against Marcus Perez, won that fight by first-round knockout. He knocked out Trevin Giles after that. He got a decision win against Brad Tavares, and then a submission win against Darren Till in the 3rd round. So once again, we have another pretty decent-sized favorite here in Dricus du Plessis. It's one of those matchups where there's kind of some missing information. I'm curious to see how Dricus's takedown defense looks, because there's not a ton of information on it. I think he's only defended 1 takedown in the UFC. I think he's 1-1, so a 50% takedown defense. The 1 takedown did come against Darren Till, but you have to dig a while ago to go back and see this guy getting taken down, and you can't really look too much into that because it was so long ago. You got to imagine Dricus has made improvements since then, but even if Brunson is able to take the fight down to the mat, which I think he probably does, it's just the thing with Brunson here. I think for him to win this fight, to pull off the upset, I think he's going to have to just fight a perfect fight for 15 minutes. And at 39 years old, I'm just not sure if he can. Dricus, the thing about him, I don't think he's the best fighter in the world. I think he's a tad overrated, but what he is super dangerous anywhere the fight goes. On the feet, he has a lot of power, and that scares me for Brunson here. Brunson, who's been knocked out 6 times. I really have always questioned the chin of Brunson, especially now at 39 years old, especially after coming off a brutal knockout loss. So Dricus is going to be live for a knockout at any point in the fight. And Dricus also has a very good submission game as well. And the thing about Dricus is he looks tired, like after the first round in every one of his fights, but he's one of those guys that's able just to fight through it. And he's able to carry that power, that danger factor of him for the full 3 rounds. He's always going to be dangerous. He has multiple finishes later in fights as well. So Brunson's going to have to fight a perfect game plan for 15 minutes, and I'm just not sure I see it. I think Dricus does find a finish at some point in this matchup, probably by knockout, but I would not rule out a submission. Derek Brunson, it was weird. Brunson's a guy that typically has solid cardio, but in the Cannonier fight, I don't know if he was having an off night or what, but he looked tired. He looked really tired after that first round. And if you slow down against Dricus, there's going to be problems. So, it's another big price tag here. It's another guy I don't really want to trust at this price tag. It might be another underlook just because Dricus has only been to decision once in 20 professional fights. He's finished all but one of his wins, and then he's been finished in both his losses. So it might be an underlook, but I fully expect Dricus to at some point land a big shot, find a sub, but I think he does finish the 39-year-old Derek Brunson in this matchup. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one? Very, very fun fight here.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you're on that Du Plessis side, it's very easy to make the argument where you're saying he's 10 years younger than Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson just 2 fights ago said, I think I've got 2 more fights left in me before I'm retired. I'm walking away from this sport with my brain cells still intact and able to be there for my family, so you never want to hear the retirement word coming out of somebody's mouth. And he's getting to that age anyway. And we all know that Father Time is undefeated in this sport. Du Plessis is so much more dangerous at this point in his career than Brunson is. I mean, he's finished 17 of his 18 wins inside the distance. The only one he didn't finish inside the distance was Brad Tavares, and he beat 7 shades of shit out of Tavares. He actually probably did worse things at Tavares than half the guys that he's actually finished. But Tavares is just incredibly tough, and he just wouldn't get out of there. He wouldn't fuck off. And the referee, I think that one could have been stopped a number of different times as well. Dricus was just putting it on him. Dricus has got a very, very dangerous submission game as well. So you got to like that, because that Derek Brunson's probably not looking to stand in front of Dricus Du Plessis and knock him out. This is not the 8 years ago version of Derek Brunson that was knocking everybody out in the first round, who forgot that he knew how to wrestle. All of a sudden, finally, somebody got a hold of Derek, and they were like, listen, dumbass, you're a fantastic wrestler, and that's a great way to win minutes and avoid damage and have some longevity in this sport. And that's why we're still seeing Derek Brunson fighting at the age of 39 here, winning 4 out of his last 5 fights, because he's finally starting to fight smart. He's finally starting to take his opponents to where he's most comfortable and where they're least comfortable. So, yeah, Du Plessis fought good competition up here at the UFC level. Till, Tavares, Giles, those are good names, But Derek Brunson's fought the better brand of competition. And Derek Brunson has got legitimately good middleweight division wrestling numbers. 31 takedowns on 99 attempts. That's in 19 UFC fights. So he's attempting over 5 takedowns per fight. He's got 88% takedown defense, does Brunson. Brunson is, for every minute of control time that Derek Brunson gives up, he gets 17.64 minutes of control time. He's winning almost 95% of the control time positions that he's been in the 19 fights and the 155 minutes in the UFC cage. So all of you people who are on the Dricus Du Plessis side, I get what you're saying, but please don't tell me that there's no path to victory here for Derek Brunson, because there is. The takedown path for Brunson is going to be there, and we don't know what Dricus Du Plessis' takedown defense looks like at the UFC level. He's only faced 2 takedowns, and he got taken down on one of them, and he has given up 7% control time. But Dricus has got good numbers on the ground as well. So there's a lot of reasons to like Dricus here. But like you said, if Derek is able to take this guy down, if he can avoid the submission attempts on the ground, stay busy with the ground and pound, and accrue a bunch of top control time from a half guard while landing ground and pound and running out the clock of this fight, at plus 400 or better, plus 500 or better, Derek Brunson by decision might be worth a sprinkle, because we have got those unanswered questions about Dricus du Plessis' takedown defense. And when you look at those names, Till, Tavares, Giles, or Perez, you can see why he's only faced 2 takedown attempts in 4 fights. So very interesting fight. I think Dricus du Plessis finish only prop is probably one of the safest bets of the card, but we're going to find out how good Dricus's takedown defense is and his get-up game is, and how he can, limit the ground and pound of a wrestler here. So as long as Derek Brunson doesn't fight like a complete dumbass, I think he actually has a chance here.
Yeah, he's been fighting a lot less like a dumbass as of late.
That's for sure.
Yep. We have du Plessis opened up minus 150, currently minus 205. Brunson opened up plus 130, currently plus 175. The fight goes to decision, plus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 185. Du Plessis inside the distance, plus 110. Brunson by decision, plus 445.
I'm really surprised that fight doesn't go to decision, isn't juiced more, simply because it's a Dricus du Plessis fight. 20 professional fights, 19 of them have finished inside the distance, and the only one that didn't probably should have finished inside the distance. It was kind of horrific to watch what he was doing to Tavares there. He beat the absolute hell out of him. So, potentially you could see 2 of things happen here, because we've seen Dricus finished in his 2 losses. So what if Brunson goes out there and gets a takedown in the first? What if he goes out there and he gets a takedown in the second and Dricus doesn't have an answer? He can't get back up. He can't get a sweep. He can't get a submission. Could Derek Brunson break this dude in the 3rd round, when we've seen Dricus get tired even when he's not grappling, which is wild, right? Yeah. So very interesting there. I'm kind of surprised that it's not like minus 250, minus 300 for a fight doesn't go here.
Yeah, especially considering Dricus has been broken and finished before. I think both of his finished losses are in the 3rd round, one by knockout, one by sub. I actually went back and watched his one submission loss where he was getting like ragdolled the entire fight, and then eventually submitted, but that was back, I think, 2015, 2016. So I think he's probably made improvements since then, but wasn't the best look in the world. So yeah, minus 188, 85, I don't hate that for the fight doesn't go. Might be something I look at if it's around the same price on like Bet Online or something.
Yeah, it could be a decent parlay piece.
Yep, absolutely. All right. We will keep moving on. Weezy, we have the featured prelim here. And this, I don't know, this fight is it's a tough one here. We got Cody Garbrandt going against Trevin Jones. We got Cody Garbrandt, 31 years old, 5'8" with a 65-inch reach. Trevin Jones, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Garbrandt 1 year younger, 1-inch height advantage, and a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Garbrandt is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, had a knockout loss to TJ Dillashaw, a knockout loss to Pedro Munoz, a knockout win against Rafael Assunção, a decision loss to Rob Font, and then a knockout loss to Kai Kara France. Trevin Jones is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, knockout win against Timur Valiev. That actually turned into a no contest there. And then I believe due to marijuana, right? Weezy, so we'll count it.
Yeah. So in my database, that's a win for him.
Okay.
I don't. Marijuana is not a performance enhancer. Like I said, man, if it was, I'd be on a yacht right now, banging like 10 models.
Gotcha. So we'll count that as a win. Mario Batista knockout win, aging very well, and then a submission loss to Said Yakub Kakramanov, a decision loss to Javid Basharat, and then a decision loss to Hayani Barcelos. It's a frustrating fight, Weezy, because I feel like Cody Garbrandt is the much better fighter here, the much better minute winner. Trevin Jones, he's just so low volume. He doesn't do anything at all. But the one thing that he has shown in the UFC is the power, and it's weird. Trevin Jones doesn't have a ton of knockout wins in his entire career, but he's coming in the UFC, and all of a sudden he's going out there and knocking guys out bad. Like he knocked out Mario Batista in the 2nd round. Same thing with Timur Valiev, but he's losing those fights up until he finds the big shot. And what's interesting about this fight is Cody Garbrandt, he's been knocked out like 5 times at this point. The chin is a massive question, and he's going against Trevin Jones, who has shown not much, but he's shown that he has power, and that's what makes this fight so terrifying. Man, I don't know. I've been going back and forth because I could see a scenario where Cody Garbrandt just looks like a massive favorite. I think whoever wins this fight is going to look like a massive favorite. Either it's Cody Garbrandt going out there making Trevin Jones look silly, like he doesn't even belong in the UFC, or it's Cody Garbrandt looking phenomenal, up until Trevin Jones lands that one shot, and that's all it takes. So a frustrating fight for me, Weezy, a fight that I probably can't even bet on because I feel like Cody Garbrandt should win this all day, every day. It's just the power of Trevin Jones scares me. The mindset of Cody Garbrandt scares me right now. Like, where's his head at after getting knocked out so many times? And then, of course, the chin of Cody Garbrandt scares me. So I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Weezy.
Yeah, this is. I'm equally as confused by this fight as you are, because it's like, yeah, dude. I mean, like, Cody should just be better than this guy everywhere. He's fought the better brand of competition. This guy was a champion. He wore gold around his waist, and people are talking about him like he's completely fucking washed. But yet he's the younger fighter here, you know? Yes. I mean, he's got 12 UFC fights compared to 5 for Trevin Jones. You know, this guy's wearing gold around his waist. He's got twice as many minutes in the UFC cage as Trevin Jones does. He's got 83% takedown defense, and Trevin Jones is 11% accurate on his takedown attempts. So even though Trevin Jones is a no-gi grappling champion and he does really good work from top control, when you watch Trevin, he's fantastic on top, but not really good on the bottom. But, you know, I don't think he's taken down Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt, you know, has only been taken down twice in 12 UFC fights, and he's fought the who's who of the division. Cody's winning 68% of the control time positions that he's in. But most importantly, Brady, you know, he's spending about 94% of his fights at striking range. And that's where Cody wants to be. I mean, he's a team alpha male guy. The guy's wrestling every day in practice, but that's not what he wants to do. He uses his wrestling in reverse to keep fights standing, and he wants to use that power that he has on the feet. And what people, you know, they're talking about Cody's chin, but it's kind of funny. I mean, like, for instance, Trevin Jones has been knocked down twice in 5 fights. Cody Garbrandt has been knocked down like 10 times in 12 fights. It's like a similar percentage, you know, especially at range. At range, Trevin Jones is absorbing a knockdown at about 1% of the significant strikes that he gets hit with at distance. It's only 1.6% for Garbrandt. So just on the pure numbers, he's not that much more chinny. And we've seen Trevin get subbed here at the UFC level, but we've seen Cody get knocked out in 4 of 5 UFC losses, and that's where the problem is. But it's Dillashaw, it's Munoz, it's Kai Kara France, you know, but Cody Garbrandt is going to be the more powerful fighter here. That's the thing. Over the bigger sample size, over 117 minutes in the UFC cage, you know, Cody has landed a shit ton of knockdowns, you know. I'm sorry, he's been knocked down 7 times, but I believe that he's got 10. You know, he's got 10 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights, does Cody Garbrandt. 2.69% of the percent of the strikes that he lands result in a knockdown, and he's averaging 1 knockdown per 15 minutes, while Trevin Jones averages about half that. It's an orthodox versus southpaw matchup, but Trevin Jones isn't really a southpaw. He's a righty who just fights southpaw so that his power hand is up front. And that's what he's hurting people with, is that lead right hook. That's what he got Valiev with. That's what he got Batista with. So Garbrandt's going to be watching out for that right hand, but I think he's the much better technical boxer. I think he's the much better minute winner on the feet. I don't think Trevin Jones is going to be able to clinch up with him and win minutes there, or take him down and win minutes there. And if we're talking about punching power here, I'm on the Garbrandt side, so I've got to go with Cody Garbrandt. But that being said, you look at those 5 names on Trevin Jones's resume: Timur Valiev, Mario Batista, Rakhmonov, Javid Basharat, and Hani Barcelos. Talk about a murderer's row of opponents to get in a row in this division, coming out of Guam, 15-6 on the regional scene. And those are the 5 names that he gets. And Trevin's looked pretty good, man. He's looked pretty good. He went the full 3 with Basharat. He went the full 3 with Barcelos. He got subbed late in the 3rd round against Rakhmonov after controlling him up against the fence for a good portion of that fight. So, yeah, Trevin Jones is absolutely live, but I have to pick Cody Garbrandt here just because I think he's the better mixed martial artist. and that where I think that everybody thinks Cody's the weakest, I actually think that he's got more power than Trevin Jones is going to be much more likely to land the knockdowns here. So I'm going with Garbrandt.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Cody too, but zero confidence. Jones, I don't think has he ever been knocked out?
No, he's been subbed in 2 of 9 losses, but he's never been knocked out. But I mean, dude, the Valiev fight, he got the shit kicked out of him for like 6-7 minutes. It's just that the fight wasn't stopped.
Yeah, he got hurt to the body. That fight could have been stopped, but he did show some toughness in that fight. Yeah, we got Garbrandt minus 170, Trevin Jones plus 145. That sounds about right. I mean, Cody absolutely should be favored. He's a much better fighter by a very wide margin, but Trevin Jones does have that puncher's chance, and a puncher's chance against somebody and Cody, who has just not shown the best chin as of late. The fight goes decision plus 165. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 215. No interest in any of that. Weezy, any props you're looking out for in this, or any money lines? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, like, these guys have been finished, 4 or 5 losses at the UFC level, 1 of 3 for Trevin Jones, so that's 5 of 8 losses inside the distance. Trevin Jones with a 100% finish rate in the UFC. Garbrandt with a 71% finish rate in the UFC, and bantamweight fights finish inside the distance about half the time. So if I can get a fight doesn't go at plus 100 or a little bit better, it might be something I take a look at.
No, the fight doesn't goes minus 215.
Might be looking at a fight goes then. And just, because Trevin Jones does try to like hug people up against the cage, and he does try to win minutes in the clinch. And he's very durable too. So maybe that'd be the best way to go, because 50% of bantamweight fights go the distance. So if I'm getting plus 160, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think I might just pass on this one. If anything, it'd probably be a bet on Cody, but man, what a sweat that would be for 3 rounds.
Yep. That's the game we play, man. Every bet's a sweat, but some are just worse than others, right?
Absolutely. All right, Weezy, let's move on to this main card. Before we do so, if you have not already, smash the like button. We are approaching 200 people in the live, which has got to be the most in a very long time. So thank you all for hanging out. If you have not already, be sure to become a member here at Pub Sports Radio. The link is down below. And also be sure to check out that Pub Sports Radio contest we do each and every Saturday. I once again placed second. Can't quite get that first, but placed second last week. Was very close, but Andre Muniz went out there and thought he was a striker, Weezy.
I know that one cost me as well. I had Muniz by first round submission.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out at all. I'm so glad I had no money on that fight, because if I would have known that Muniz wasn't going to shoot for takedowns, I would have been slamming the Brendan Allen money line at plus 180 in just absurd fashion. And it would have been my biggest win ever.
Yeah, if I knew Muniz was not going to wrestle, it'd have been a max bet on Brendan Allen. So just a very interesting game plan there. But yeah, I'm glad I had no money on it either. But let's move on to this main card. We have the long-awaited debut of Bo Nickal going against Jamie Pickett. We got Bo Nickal, 27 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Jamie Pickett, 34 years old, 6'2" with an 80-inch reach. We have Bo Nickal, 7 years younger. It's going to be Jamie Pickett with a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Bo Nickal's 3-0 in his only 3 fights. He had a submission win on the Contender Series in the first round, and then another submission win under a minute on the Contender Series, his second go-round last season. Jamie Pickett is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win or knockout loss against the Beverly Hills Ninja Jordan Wright, a decision win against Loriana Staropoli, a decision win against Joseph Holmes, a submission loss to Kyle Dawkins, and then a knockout loss to Dennis Tuolumne. Not much to say here, Weezy. We have Bo Nickal. He's like minus 1,800, probably even going to get wider. Bo Nickal should have Jamie Pickett covered everywhere. Like in terms of the striking, Jamie Pickett doesn't throw anything, so I don't really see problems there. In terms of the takedown defense, Bo Nickal should be able to get him down. When guys like Dennis Tuolumne and Jordan Wright are going out there and finishing you, I'm just not convinced he's really UFC caliber. I think they're feeding Bo Nickal here, or feeding Jamie Pickett here to Bo Nickal to get him a win, get him a highlight win, continue to build this guy up, take it slow, and get him a first-round finish here. So I like Bo Nickal. Obviously, you can't touch the minus 1,800, but I really struggle to see where Jamie Pickett has just any success in this fight whatsoever, outside of just being a bigger body in there. So give me Bo Nickal, first-round, knockout, submission, really whatever he wants. I'm going to be waiting for that under 1.5 rounds, and if it's a playable price, I'm probably going to be smashing that. Or like the fight starts round 2. I just don't see Jamie Pickett lasting 5 minutes with Bo Nickal when you can't last 5 minutes with a guy like Jordan Wright, who's since then been cut. So yeah, Bo Nickal, and I will be probably locking him in on DraftKings this week as well. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to do here? A minus 1,800 line on a guy that's gonna win the fight. Just really interested to see where Nickal goes from here because it's unbettable lines. I mean, really the only side that you could play here is Pickett. Because minus 1,800 is, what a 94% implied probability. You would have to hit 100 bets, just to make 6 units. Like over the long term, they have that 6% return on investment. So it's not good, man. It's just you can't do anything here. But Nickal obviously is a very, very, very high level wrestler. Pickett's been controlled almost 28% of his UFC career. A lot of that on the fence. He's shown 80% takedown defense, but this is a different level of wrestling that he's going to see from guys like Staropoli and Wright and Joe Holmes and Dennis Tialulin and Dawkins, and even Dawkins just kind of toyed with him on the ground, made him tap with like 1 second left in the round to a Darce. So, yeah, I mean, Nickal, first round, second round submission or knockout, it should be pretty easy for him. But, yeah, I can't bet it, so there's really nothing to do with this fight.
Yeah, I can't believe this fight's sanctioned. I think the line's right at minus 1,800. It sounds right there. Outside, I think Jamie Pickett to win this fight, he's going to have to survive like 7.5 minutes and hope that Bo Nickal might gas out. And you never know, maybe it happens. But I think Bo Nickal should get this done. But that's not a hot take. He's the biggest favorite of the year thus far. The fight goes to decision. This kind of surprised me. The fight goes to decision plus 350. The fight doesn't go to decision, only minus 530. I was fully expecting at least minus 1,000. So I'll be taking a look at the under, see where they get that out at. But if it is not playable, yeah, there's not really much you can do with this fight. Like even Bo Nickal round 1 is probably going to be like minus 300 or minus 400, something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And that's the easiest way to just stay away from a fight for me. I mean, inside the distance, and you're going to pay 75 to 80% implied probability. No, thank you, man. That's how you think a fighter's a bum because he didn't finish someone. And you're like, oh, he's a bum because you're the bum because you laid minus 150 on him to finish the fight inside the distance. It's not bettable lines. This is not going to be a bettable fight, but it'll be interesting to see what Bo Nickal looks like in his UFC debut.
Yep, agreed. Should be fun for as long as it lasts. I'll be taking a look at the Bo Nickal inside 60 seconds. I'll be taking a look at the Bo Nickal under half a round. I don't give Jamie Pickett much of a chance, but it seems like nobody is. I wonder if anybody's going to pick Jamie Pickett this week, but I doubt it. All right, let's move on to an actual fight here, Weezy. We have Mateusz Gamrot going against Jalin Turner. We got Gamrot, 32 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Jalin Turner, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. We have Turner, 5 years younger. He's going to have a 5-inch height advantage and a massive 7-inch reach advantage. We got Gamrot is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Holtzman, submission win against Stevens, knockout win against Carlos Diego Ferreira, a decision win against Arman Saruki, and then a decision loss against Beneil Dariush. As far as Jalin Turner, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Josh Kulabau, a submission win against Brock Weaver, a submission win against Uros Medic, a knockout win against Jamie Malarkey, and then a submission win against Brad Riddell. This was supposed to be Jalin Turner versus Dan Hooker, which I was really looking forward to that matchup. Thought it was a very winnable matchup for Jalin Turner. This is a much, much tougher matchup for Jalin Turner here against Mateusz Gamrot. But yeah, Turner is super dangerous anywhere the fight goes. He's a really good grappler, I believe brown belt in BJJ, and obviously has a ton of power. So Mateusz Gamrot's probably going to want to get this fight down to the mat. We have seen Turner taken down in the past, but the last time we did see him taken down, he got taken down by Malarkey, but he also got taken down quite a bit against Matt Frevola. I'm curious to see if Turner has patched any of those holes up in his game, but he's going to definitely need to in this fight here. So really good fight. To be honest, I kind of wanted to see the Hooker fight a little bit more, but yeah, Gamrot Turner should be fun here. Weez, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like Gamrot quite a bit here. And I've cashed on Jalin Turner his last 2 times out big on Riddell and Malarkey, won those, bets easily. And I believe I had an under in the Medic Turner fight. So I've been calling this guy's Turner's fights correctly. And I think he is just an absolutely fantastic prospect. But I always knew when I watched Jalin Turner fight that, the type of opponent that he was going to struggle against was going to be somebody that could wrestle for 3 rounds and had the will to do it, had shown that they were going to do it in the past, and had carried that out and were successful with that type of a game plan. And, you look at Gamrot's stats, he's attempted 70 takedowns in the UFC in only 6 fights. 70 takedowns in 70 minutes of cage time, Brady. How about that, right? And he's spending, 22% of his fights are in control time positions for or against. So, this guy is really attempting a lot of takedowns when these fights are at distance. And Jalin Turner, he's showing 78% takedown defense. He's very efficient on the ground, right? Jalin has only attempted 4 takedowns. Jalen's opponents have attempted 27 against him. So for every 1 takedown that Jalen's attempting, his opponents are attempting 7. Yet Jalin is out-controlling his opponents 21% to 15%. So he's not an easy guy. Even though you can take him down and you can win minutes on the ground, others have tried and failed. But Malarkey had success in the first round doing that. And then Matt Frivola had success doing it over a 3-round period where he was able to accrue takedowns in 2 or 3 of the rounds and win a bunch of minutes on the ground, which is how he rendered Jalin ineffective enough to get that win. And Jalin Turner's only other UFC loss came at the hands of Vicente Luque up a weight class on short notice. So the kid's clearly a very special athlete, being 6'3" with a 77-inch reach in the lightweight weight class is an absolute problem for a lot of people. Add to that fact now that he's a southpaw and that he's got a good and a tricky submission game when you do go to take him down. And that's the thing. It's like, it's hard to replicate this kind of shit in the gym. You don't have a lot of 6'3" lightweights, to spar with. You just don't, and it'll probably feel different for Gamrot when he goes in there and he tries to wrestle this dude. But we can count on the fact that Mateusz is going to wrestle. He's not going to turn into Andre Muniz here and then fancy himself a boxer and fall in love with his hands against a guy with a 100% finish rate as a pro, against a guy who's 5 inches taller than him and has a 7-inch reach advantage. And in addition to that, Brady, it's southpaw versus southpaw, right? So instead of Gamrot being the southpaw against the orthodox fighter here, which is what he's used to, which is where now his jab doesn't really mean as much. He's going to be able to throw his power hand. He's going to have that body kick to the liver open. None of that's going to be open for him here. Now he's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage, and he's against the southpaw, so he's going to have to use his jab, which means that Gamrot is never going to let Turner strike in this fight. Stylistically, Mateusz Gamrot has to wrestle here. Otherwise, he's a dead man. But we know that Gamrot will wrestle. We know that he's probably going to be successful wrestling. Is Jalin Turner going to get this guy? Is he going to be able to find areas to get this guy to fuck off? Is he going to be able to stay at distance long enough to land a big shot on Gamrot here, who's never been finished in 24 professional fights? I'm trusting Gamrot's commitment to the wrestling, ability to be able to wrestle, submission defense, and scrambling ability here, that I think he fights a smart fight, frustrates Jalin Turner, racks up takedowns and control time, and gets a unanimous decision win.
Yep, I am right there with you on the Gamrot side of things, but definitely missed the boat. So Gamrot opened up minus 240 actually. So he was sitting around like minus 160, minus 174 for a while, for a couple days, and he's just been getting smashed like the last couple of days. He's now down to minus 210, 212. Best price out there looks like minus 196. So money pouring in on Gamrot here. The fight goes decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 175. So yeah, probably a fight I will be passing on. But yeah, I think Gamrot should be able to get this one done.
Yeah, such a great fight. I mean, Gamrot, fantastic prospect. Jalin Turner, about as good of a prospect as you can have, because the guy is showing a well-rounded MMA game while having the things that you can't teach, which is size and length. So I can't wait for this fight, dude.
Yep. Very, very fun fight here. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We have a couple fights left. Now we have Shavkat Rakhmonov going against Geoff Neal. This man card's fire. We have Rakhmonov, 28 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Geoff Neal, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Rakhmonov, 4 years younger. Rakhmonov with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Geoff Neal is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Mike Perry, a decision loss against Stephen Thompson and Neil Magny, a decision win against Santiago Ponzinibbio, and then a very good win in his last time out against Vicente Luque by knockout in the 3rd round. Shavkat Rakhmonov is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Alex Oliveira, won that fight by first-round sub. He also submitted Michel Prazeres by submission as well. He knocked out Carlston Harris in the 1st round, and then he submitted Neil Magny in the 2nd round there with like 5 seconds to spare. So yeah, Rakhmonov is undefeated, of course, 16-0. All 16 of those wins coming by finish, 8 of those by knockout, and 8 of those by submission. He's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. In this fight, though, in particular, he's going to want to take it down to the mat. Geoff Neal looked incredible in his last fight against Vicente Luque. I love the pressure he brought against Luque. I love the volume, the power, and as you know, Weezy, nobody knocks out Vicente Luque ever. It doesn't happen, but Geoff Neal did it. And Keith Peterson was reffing that fight, and he was still able to knock out Vicente Luque. That's how you knew it was bad. So, yeah, great win there for Geoff Neal. But for this matchup, he's going to have to keep it on the feet. And, yeah, Geoff Neal, he has solid takedown defense. He really does. He has a really good get-up game as well. I think he has nearly a 90% takedown defense. It's just, Shavkat, I think he's on another level. I think he probably does get this fight down to the mat. And when he does, his grappling is very, very good. The line honestly kind of surprises me a bit, Weezy. He's like minus 500, minus 600, but that's because there's a lot of hype on him. I think Geoff Neal's definitely getting disrespected a tad in this matchup, but it's hard to pick against the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov here. He's just dangerous everywhere, and I think the significant advantage he's going to bring is on the mat. But yeah, this is going to probably be Shavkat's toughest matchup here ever. I mean, the Neil Magny win was a pretty good win, but as we know, Magny's been submitted multiple times. He has no takedown defense. Geoff Neal, power puncher. I love the volume, and he has good takedown defense. So it's going to be a true test for Rakhmonov here, a test that I think he passes, but minus 500. It's a wide line here, Weezy. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think that if you're betting Shavkat Rakhmonov at minus 500, that what you're doing is you're calling Geoff Neal a bum.
Yep.
You're calling Geoff Neal a bum when you say that he's got a 20% implied probability to beat Rakhmonov here. And look, you don't need the stat sheet to know that Geoff Neal is not a bum. He's the furthest thing from a bum. And everybody, I hear people, Neal lost him. Geoff Neal lost to Neil Magny and Rakhmonov subbed Magny. Dude, Geoff Neal was on his deathbed before that fight, okay? He had, all these infections. His heart almost stopped. And the guy came back, and he wasn't ready yet to fight. But Geoff Neal has got serious power for a southpaw in that left hand. Geoff Neal's got 88% takedown defense. Geoff Neal has been controlled by his opponents at the UFC level in a 9-fight and over 100-minute sample size for less than 4 minutes. Actually, about 3.5 minutes is how much Geoff Neal's been controlled out of the 100 minutes he's been in the UFC cage. 3.5 minutes, and that's on 25 takedown attempts against. And he's only been taken down 3 times in 9 fights, and he's showing 88% takedown defense. So I don't understand this line. Shavkat Rakhmonov is an absolutely elite prospect. There is no question about it. He's got durability. He's got incredible conditioning. He's got really good striking, and his ground game is incredibly opportunistic, and his guillotine choke finishes every time he ever latches down. But Geoff Neal is more experienced. Geoff Neal has fought the far better brand of competition. Geoff Neal is probably the more powerful striker here. And Geoff Neal has done such a fantastic job of not letting people take him down at this level. So if Rakhmonov can't take Geoff Neal down, he's going to have to really kind of drown him in the distance striking battle. And I haven't seen enough of Rakhmonov on the feet to put him in the same category as Geoff Neal. I mean, this guy was in serious trouble against Odilov on the regional scene in Kazakhstan, and Odilov's a really good fighter. But, if it weren't for Shavkat's durability, he would have been knocked out in that fight. And I think Geoff Neal hits harder than Faridun Odilov does. So, yeah, this is a very intriguing spot to get a stylistically good matchup here for Geoff Neal. He's got great takedown defense. He's got great power, and he's got great durability here at the UFC level. He's never been finished in the UFC in 9 fights, and he's fighting finishers like Luque, like Ponzinibbio, like Stephen Thompson, like Mike Perry. He's been in there with really good guys. So I'm probably going to get to a small money line bet here on Geoff Neal, and my statement from that bet is that Geoff Neal is not a bum.
No, sir, he is not. But he's getting priced as if he was one, right? We got Shavkat minus 500, Geoff Neal plus 375. If you are, laying the minus 500 on Shavkat, you're banking on him being able to take the fight down to the mat and work in that ground game. So just a lot of assumptions for laying, 5-1 on the guy. The fight goes decision plus 225. The fight doesn't go decision minus 305. Violence is something that I would not mind in this fight. But yeah, I'm probably going to stay away from this fight though. Minus 500, it's a lot, but I still got to pick Shavkat to win. But again, it's a lot of assumptions for a price tag that wide.
Absolutely. A lot of assumptions, but Shavkat, I mean, he's a fantastic prospect. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in there again. This is a great card, dude. I mean, like this main card, Gamrot Turner, Neal Rakhmonov, the debut of Bo Nickal, and then 2 title fights that we're going to talk about next here. The return of Jon Jones, the GOAT of women's MMA right now, Valentina Shevchenko. Wow. Can't wait.
Yep. And by the way, somebody in the chat said Rakhmonov inside the distance is already minus 190.
Woo!
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. That's just that. You're calling Geoff Neal a bum. Stop calling Geoff Neal a bum. Because even though you're not actually using those words, if you're driving the Rakhmonov inside the distance line to minus 190, almost a 65, 66% implied probability, you're calling him a bum.
Yep. We'll see if anybody calls him a bum this week. But yeah, he's not a bum. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the co-main event. We got a title fight here. We got Valentina Shevchenko going against Alexa Grasso. First off, is Valentina ducking Taila Santos?
I don't know, man. I mean, like, it's weird, right? I mean, how hasn't that rematch been made? I mean, a lot of people thought Taila Santos won that fight.
Oh, yeah.
So then they're trying to set Santos up against Blanchfield while they make a Grasso fight? I don't know. Is she ducking her?
Yeah, and I just read like a second ago that they might do Valentina versus Blanchfield. So I think she's ducking Santos. I really think she is.
Wow. Poor Taila Santos. I mean, because she just got, and that wasn't her fault that she got canceled out of her fight because her entire corner wasn't allowed to come to the UFC or to the United States. So I think she had to call off the fight because of that. What a shame for Taila. I mean, like, had the best performance anybody's ever had against Valentina Shevchenko as a flyweight and comes up just a little bit short. And now here she is, and she can't even get a fight.
Yeah, I would have loved to watch that rematch. But instead, we'll watch Alexa Grasso here, who's 29 years old, 5'5", 66-inch reach. Valentina, 34 years old, 5'5", the 66-inch reach. We're going to have Grasso 5 years younger, same height, same reach. Valentina, 5-0 in her last 5 fights, knockout win against Jukagan, a decision win against Jennifer Maia, knockout win against the very handsome Jessica Andrade, a knockout win against Lauren Murphy, and then a decision win against Taila Santos. As far as Alexa Grasso, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights, a decision loss to Carla Esparza, a decision win against Jian Kim, decision win against Macy Barber, submission win against Joanne Wood, a decision win against Viviane Araújo. So Shevchenko is the second biggest favorite on the card, right behind Bo Nickal, and I can't really argue it. I think Shevchenko should have Grasso covered pretty much everywhere, especially in the grappling. If Shevchenko goes to the grappling here, I think she can have a lot of success. We have seen Grasso struggle on the mat before. I think Grasso has improved that part of her game a little bit, but I just don't think it's going to matter much. It's Shevchenko here. It's just a whether of does she win by decision? Does she, win by knockout, submission? It's probably going to be a pass fight for me. Like, even the money line's getting a little bit too wide to even put in parlays at this point. So yeah, Shevchenko. Would have liked to see the Santos fight. I think that would have been more interesting to talk about. Even like the Blanchfield fight, I think that would have been more interesting to talk about. But I just don't really see Grasso pulling this off. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Alexa does in this spot, because I've been very impressed by her recent performances. Beating Macy Barber proves that she can outmuscle somebody in the clinch that's as strong and as good there as Barber. That's good. I mean, you submit Joanne Wood, Brady. I mean, she's really only been submitted in like 100% of her losses. So, I mean, that almost never happens, but she was able to get that one. I heard that Joanne Wood was recently submitted by the seatbelt of her own car last week. So, I mean, it's happening a lot there. But then the Araújo fight was another really good performance. She won the distance striking battle there, and even though Araújo was the one going for the takedown, she actually outcontrolled Araújo in that fight. So it's going to be interesting, because Valentina can be a bit of a low-volume counter striker at times. I mean, if you look at the distance striking numbers, dude, they really tell a story here, right? 14.48 distance strikes attempted per minute by Alexa Grasso, only 8.5 by Valentina. So Valentina is very low volume, but she's such a fantastic counter striker that oftentimes she'll kind of mute the volume of her opponents due to the fact that they're so worried about what's going to be coming back their way. And Valentina does such a great job of parlaying that great counter striking into counter wrestling as well, which she's shown the ability to do. I mean, she's 64% on takedown accuracy, over 64 attempts in 14 fights, but she has been taken down 10 times in 34 attempts. She's out-controlling her opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio. And we've seen Grasso over the long term lose a lot of control time positions, especially early in her career against fights, in the Esparza fight, for instance. She's only winning about 40% of her control time positions. But lately, we've kind of seen her have some defensive wrestling. We've seen her not be afraid to go to the ground and go for submission attempts of her own, or to try to get to her opponent's back. So, we've got a 35-year-old Valentina Shevchenko here. Father time is undefeated. There's going to come a time, you guys, and we noticed the first chink in the armor last time against Santos, but Santos has that offensive wrestling and control time ability that Alexa Grasso doesn't. So unless Grasso can keep this fight on the feet, where I think that she's, going to be comparable in the level of striking that she has to Valentina Shevchenko, it's going to be interesting to see how Valentina approaches this fight. Is she going to bring that Jessica Andrade game plan where she says, you know what, even though you are probably thinking that you're going to knock me out on the feet, I'm going to take you right down to the ground and not give you a chance. So that was a very eye-opening performance. I don't think the Lauren Murphy performance really means anything out of Valentina Shevchenko. She's kind of cleaned out this division, right, Brady? And now it's like it's like they're almost having to go and look for opponents for her, because she's just so dominant against everybody but Santos that once she beats them, it looks like it's just going to be easy every time. But when you go back and you look, Caitlin Chukagian, Jennifer Maia, 115-pounder, and Jessica Andrade, who just got mollywopped not only on the feet, but also on the ground by Erin Blanchfield. And then she beat Lauren Murphy. And then the Santos fight. God damn, Brady, if there's a time to short Valentina Shevchenko, I think it's now. I think this is the best chance that we're going to get. As is Alexa Grasso. I know that there's questions there, but the timing means so much, man. And this might be the time to just say, you know what? I'll put a quarter unit on Grasso at plus 500, and maybe I can win 1.25 units if, in fact, Shevchenko is starting to fall off a little bit here, because we got the first notice of it, and the women that she's beating before that, none of them have, Chukagian, Jennifer Maia, dude, like Macy Barber destroys Jennifer Maia. Viviane Araújo probably gets a win over Maia at this point, and Caitlin Chukagian wins fights by making mouth sounds. So, am I crazy, Brady? Is this maybe the point that we do it?
I mean, I'm not. I'm gonna wait for Santos, but just because it's a completely different matchup from that Santos fight. But I mean, I don't know. I can't see it personally. No.
Okay. I just, I'm not impressed by Valentina's recent wins. I'm definitely not impressed by the most recent performance. And I think she's a little bit low volume on the feet. And I think unless she's really dominating in the wrestling here, I don't know if she's going to look minus 500. But maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm looking too much for a reason to avoid the minus 600 favorite in this spot.
I mean, maybe if she signed in the contract that she's not allowed to grapple here, then I might be more on the Grasso side. But if she
Valentina's got better lawyers than that, I can promise you.
If she grapples, I mean, she should win this fight. I don't see why she wouldn't. So, but yeah, if it's a straight striking match, he's not looking minus 650, minus 700 against Grasso, that's for sure. But I'm kind of banking on her to go out there and get the takedowns. But yeah, she's a big favorite as always. We have Shevchenko opening up as a minus 500-ish favorite, currently minus 625. And then we have Alexa Grasso opening up plus 400, currently plus 450. In terms of the props, we have the over-under set at 4.5 rounds, the over 4.5 plus 120, the under 4.5 is minus 150. There's actually money coming on the fight doesn't go to decision, which is interesting. It's now minus 165. I guess, lean for this fight to go the distance. The only thing that would scare me is if Valentina got like that crucifix position in on there against Grasso, because her ground game looked just devastating against Andrade, and I think it was against Priscilla Cachoeira where she got that crucifix as well. Yeah. If she gets that, there could be a problem, but I do lean towards this fight getting extended. But the books are like shading violence here at that minus 165. So, I mean, it's a fight I'm probably going to stay away from. Nothing really sticking out, no props sticking out. I could see it going the distance. I could also see it finishing. Probably a fight I'll just sit back and watch.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. There are two different spots in their career. Alexa Grasso on the right side of 30, and Valentina Shevchenko's pushing 35 here. So, yeah, can't wait for this one. But, yeah, Valentina's just cleaning out this division, and if Alexa's not up to the challenge, it's going to be another easy win for Valentina. But I'm looking for reasons to take the Grasso side here. I haven't made any bets, though.
Yep, I probably won't make any bets on this one as well. And I also won't be making a bet on this main event. It's not often you see a 1-800 gambler fight on a main event, but man, there's so many question marks and red flags in this main event between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. So we have Jon Jones. He's now 35 years old, 6'4" with an 84-inch reach. Gane, 32 years old, 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. We have Gane 3 years younger, and we have Jones with a 3-inch height advantage. Jon Jones is 4-0-1 no contest against in his last 5 fights, had that no contest against Daniel Cormier where he knocked him out, turned into a no contest because he popped for something. A knockout win against Gustafsson, a decision win against Anthony Smith, a decision win against Santos, and a decision win against Reyes. As far as Gane, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Rosenstruck, a decision win against Volkov, a knockout win against Lewis, a decision loss to Ngannou, and then a knockout win against Tai Tuivasa. So the reason I can't bet on this fight, Weezy, first of all, I don't really want to lay the chalk on Jon Jones. He actually opened up as a dog on FanDuel Sportsbook at plus 140. Would have took that, but now the line, just money's been pouring in on Jon Jones ever since. And I can't quite get there just because of the red flags. Like Jon Jones, not only is he coming up a weight class, but he has not fought in 3 years. And the last time we saw Jon Jones fight, they were just lackluster performances. A lot of people, like the majority of the people, thought that Dominic Reyes beat Jon Jones. I personally scored it for Jones, but if you told me that you think Dominic Reyes won the fight, I would not argue with you whatsoever. Same thing with Thiago Santos. A lot of people thought that Santos won the fight. I personally scored it for Jones, but if you scored it for Santos, I wouldn't completely argue it, but I did think Jon Jones got it done. But regardless, I mean, he should be going out there and styling on these guys, styling on Dominic Reyes, who's been, knocked out in his last 3 fights, styling on Thiago Santos, right? And even in the Anthony Smith fight, like, he could have lost that fight. He could have got DQ'd not only once but twice. He kicked Anthony Smith in the head while he was on the mat. I believe it was Herb Dean reffing, just completely ignored it, and then he also landed a very bad knee once Anthony Smith's hand was on the ground, and then Herb Dean actually took 2 points because it was that bad. So he arguably could have lost that fight via DQ as well. So super long layoff, lackluster performances as of late, coming up a weight class, now 35 years old. How do we lay chalk on this guy, Weezy? It's a sketchy fight. It's one that I just got to stay away from.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the Gane side here, and I think that there's a lot of reasons where you could say, like, there's so many reasons not to lay juice on Jon Jones at this point in his career. He's 35 and a half years old. He's getting older. He hasn't fought in 3 years. The guy makes some of the worst outside of the cage decisions that we've seen in the history of a lot of mixed martial artists. And I mean, dude, there's a lot. There's a lot of people. You got Phil Baroni going out there and killing people, right? I mean, was it Baroni or was it? I'm sorry. Who's the one who just killed somebody like in South America?
I don't remember.
It was like one of those East Coast guys. It was, I think it was Baroni. I think he killed his girlfriend. And you got like guys like Crazy Horse Bennett. You've got some guys that fucked up big time outside the cage, right? You got Lee Murray. And Jon Jones is one of those guys. He's got empty. Like he's drinking bottles of tequila while driving and using cocaine. This guy made me look like an amateur back in college, and I was an idiot, okay? But this guy parties harder than I did back in the day. And yeah, let's talk about those last 3 fights. A win over Anthony Smith, an absolute dog shit performance against Thiago Santos that I think he lost, and Thiago Santos had 2 blown out knees in that fight. And then Dominic Reyes, who's lost 4 fights in a row since that unanimous decision win by Jon Jones. And now people haven't seen this guy in 3 years. They know he's a cokehead. They know he beats his wife. And he's training with Don'Tale Mayes. Right? Yep. And Walt Harris, who hasn't been in the cage in 2.5 years. And they're laying juice on him to beat, a guy who's in his prime, a natural heavyweight, somebody who can match the athletic gifts that Jon Jones has, somebody that can match the size that he has, somebody can match the conditioning that he has. And we've seen Ciryl Gane do it recently. Ciryl Gane is like 5-1 since Jon Jones has even been in the cage the last time. So the angle, though, Brady, is that Jon Jones is going to go out there and he's going to wrestle Ciryl Gane and beat him. And I think that's the path for him because, frankly, he got outstruck by a dude with no knees 2 fights ago, and he got outstruck by Dominic Reyes, who's 0-4 since that last fight, and then we haven't seen him in 3 years. So Jon Jones better fucking wrestle because I don't even think he's winning a striking match here. And now we're going to have to assume that this guy who only averages 1.4 takedowns per 15 minutes is going to go out there and just dominate a guy who walks around at 250 pounds when this guy was wrestling 205ers before. Yeah, I don't get the Jon Jones arguments here. I think that they're just making a ton of assumptions. The 3.5-year layoff means something. The dumbass decisions outside the cage means something. The fact that you're having your IQ stripped down by being in the same room as Don'Tale Mayes daily, that means something. There's a lot of bad things on the Jon Jones side here. Now, if he goes out there and looks like vintage Jon Jones against a guy in his athletic prime who's a natural heavyweight and a gifted athlete in Ciryl Gane, then I will just continue to be blown away by the amount of success that Jon Jones has had in his mixed martial arts career. But believe me, dude, I think it ends on Saturday, man. I think this guy's going to get exposed.
Man, it's bad. Jon Jones training with Dontel Mays, Ciryl Gane training with Alain Badeau. Like, these guys can't find any better training partners. Like, what's going on?
God, man, it's rough, but but it goes to show you how little skill there is in this division.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have Jon Jones. He opened up this is on Bet Online, by the way. Jon Jones opened up -125, just nothing but love for him the past couple weeks. He's now -155, and Ciryl Gane opened up +105, currently +135. But yeah, I was talking on FanDuel Sportsbook. They actually opened up Jon Jones +140 January 14th. And just been nothing but Jon Jones love ever since. He's now -164. Yeah, I don't usually say this, Weezy, but this is a 1-800-GAMBLER matchup. It's a matchup where there's too many question marks. There's too many red flags for me to bet on this fight. I'm going to enjoy it as a fan. I'll actually be in attendance watching the fight live. But in terms of putting any money on this fight, I just can't do it. And then even like the props, like nothing's sticking out. Like I would lean towards like some of these overs, Weezy, but it's not often you see an over 1.5 rounds in a heavyweight fight at -560 and over 2.5 at -305. The fight goes to decision -134, and this is in a heavyweight fight. So these overs are way too juiced for my liking. Nothing sticking out from a prop perspective. I know everybody wants to bet the main event, but I can't. I can't this week. I'm going to sit back and watch this one. Weezy, any props that are sticking out? And you also said you might be taking a look at the Gane money line. And I don't know, where do you think this line's going to go? Because there's a lot of Jones love. Do you think it'll get even wider than -155, -160?
I could see it because I think that there's a lot of narrative things that you can just ignore the fact. You can ignore a lot of the things that are going on with Jon Jones. Like he hasn't fought in a while. Like this is his first fight ever at heavyweight, and he's doing it against a guy was dominating up here. So yeah, I like the money line. As far as the overs and the unders, I really have no opinion just because like we're missing all this information on Jon Jones. I just don't know what he's going to look like as a heavyweight. It's a completely different weight class. It's a completely different style. You look at, distance striking numbers for these guys and, Gane's just better. He throws more volume. He lands more per minute than Jon Jones has. He absorbs less per minute than Jon Jones has. He's got a comparable striking defense. He's got a comparable striking accuracy. He's been more powerful, actually. Jon Jones in his 10. Now, it's funny. You look over there, see on the left there where it says 10 UFC fights for Jon Jones? And you're like, he's got more than 10 fights. Dude, he's only fought 10 times since the year 2013, you guys. My stats don't even go prior to 2013. Jon Jones has been in the UFC since 2006. Okay? Half of his fights at the UFC level aren't even in my database because they happened more than 10 years ago. It's 2023, everybody. Don't be overconfident in Jon Jones.
Yeah, nothing to really be confident about in this fight, in my opinion. Just there's so much missing information. There's so many red flags, question marks. I mean, this is just a clear pass if I've seen it, anything. But yeah, man, this card is a phenomenal card. I don't think there's one bad fight on the card, which is it's nice because these last couple cards have been rough. But in terms of like a betting perspective, there's just a lot of juiced favorites, not a ton of stuff sticking out, at least from like the money line. So I'm going to see if there's anything sticking out in the props, but I don't have any bets thus far. So we'll have to see where they open up some of these over-unders. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. Went through all 14 fights. We had a pretty big audience tonight. Football season's over. The shows are going to be having more people in them, so that's awesome. Thank you all for hanging out. Weezy, let the people know where they can find you and what you have for the week in terms of some MMA content.
Yeah, big week for me for a big week in the UFC. So tomorrow, Brady and I going live for Probability. It's early though tomorrow, right? Because you're flying out to Vegas or some shit, or are we doing it the usual time?
I gotta sign for a house tomorrow, so we'll probably do it like an hour earlier, maybe like 4.
So tomorrow afternoon, Probability on the MMA Engine with Brady and I. We're going to give you a data-driven look at all the time props on this card. Tuesday, 10 o'clock Central Time, just like always, just the tip with your Uncle Weezy, breaking down all 14 fights from a stats and tape study perspective. I'll give you all my track bets. Finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And by the way, 4-0 in the last 4 week in ass shavings, and all 4 of them first round finishes. We're on a roll there. And then Wednesday, I'm going to be doing the DFS show on Pub Sports Radio again with Brady, Gordo Gambles, and Monk Maddox. And then on Wednesday night, I'm going to be going live with the Couch Warrior, with Patrick from Addicted to Combat, and Ben the Bane Davis to break down this card in a panel format. And then on Thursday, I might do Ask Weezy and a Greasy 4-leg parlay. Rebuilding the database. Well, we've rebuilt the database. We're bringing out new stats. Busy week of content. So check me out in all those places. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you for watching Stat Diggers on Sunday nights, spending your Sunday nights with Brady and I. We appreciate the attention and the support.
Yep, we appreciate each and every single one of you. Smash like on your way out. You guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I posted a Ciryl Gane, Jon Jones breakdown before the show. My full card breakdown will be out on Monday. I'm going to be doing my live stream sometime Friday, and then I'll also be doing a best bet, I think, on either Thursday or Friday as well, since I'm leaving for Vegas Saturday at like 5 o'clock in the morning, which is completely terrible, but that was the only flight I could get. So going to be getting up in the morning early on Saturday. So going to be doing best bet probably a day before. So make sure you subscribe there so you don't miss out on that. And also subscribe here at Pub Sports Radio. And yeah, that's all I got. So best of luck for UFC 285. Enjoy the card and let us make some money, guys. See you later.